In the beginning of the 2010s, swag was everywhere. From fashion trends like snapbacks and oversized bull tees, or Obey drip with gold chains, which is something that could be seen in music videos like Say Yeah by Wiz Khalifa, or just the use of the word swag to state how cool something was. Like, hey man, that's swag. Similar to Riz in today's youth. I'm definitely showing my age here. Swag was a defining moment in the trend-setting mentality and could be seen at the beginning of the influencer culture. The hype of swag in the 2010s was such a unique sight, especially whenever I was younger. Walking into the mall around this time, you would see just about every kid and teen in swag drip. From emos to preps, it was literally everywhere. You also had bands like Pierce the Veil or dubstep producers like Skrillex using the trend to set off a new sound in music. While swag has roots in hip hop and rap, it had been used for centuries before. But after 2014, a major shift would end the swag trend. Where did swag come from, and why would it fade so soon? Swag was in every bit of pop culture in the 2010s, but its conception wasn't anything new. Some would say that swag started within hip-hop with the hit single You're a Jerk by New Boys at the end of the 2000s. But realistically, you could see fashion changing in the genre rapidly. Take Paul Wall and Mike Jones with their oversized jeans and tees in the 2000s, and even the hit single White Tees by Dim Franchise Boys. You could say the 2000s wasn't the start of swag. Swag itself has a meaning that dates back from the 1300s to current times and has drastically changed over that time period. From a bag that had been used as stolen goods to loot or booty, aka treasure, and in more modern times a way to express self-confidence, swag has been around for a very, very long time. This is similar to grills, and if you haven't checked out my video on the history of grills, card to that video will be up at the top. Going back to swag, as history tends to reshape current society and cultures bringing new adaptations and trends, the current definition of swag could be seen in the late 80s amongst hip-hop artists. Take Run DMC and NWA. You had the oversized tees, snapbacks with gold chains. Swag was a way of saying you were self-confident, but you had made it. However, the definition that we know swag today as would not be popularized until the 2000s. Even though Jay-Z can be attributed to the use of swag with his apparel in the 90s being similar to what we saw in the 2010s, the shift in fashion amongst hip-hop, rock, country, and pop was ever-changing. You really could see the change in the 80s with brighter colors and flashier items in everyday fashion. To me, this is where swag began to become mainstream. But to others, this trend had been around long before its popularization in the 2000s and 2010s. Now, I bring up Jay-Z as one of the forefronts of swag because you could see a shift in fashion in the 2000s that affected every industry, and he was one of the leaders of this trend. You had artists like Travis Barker and his brand Famous that also used the swag style of colorful logos and oversized tees in the 2000s. The truest form of swag would hit mainstream around 2010, even though the industry was constantly changing to fit this new narrative or new fashion of swag. Most kids and teens who listen to hip hop and pop would model their looks off of the artists they consumed, but it was also in every bit of fashion, from magazines to what you can find in Ross. It was literally just everywhere because of the shift in the industry. Three artists that really took the swag trend to the next level would be Wiz Khalifa, up, as most people can attribute this era of fashion to him, or another artist would be Soulja Boy with his hit single Crank That. As Crank That became extremely popular around 2007, people would start modeling their looks after Soulja Boy. And the last artist that I can think of would be Mac Miller. But Mac's rise to fame would be at the end of the swag era. You can literally see in a lot of his music videos his style being more swag related. But again, hip hop wasn't the only genre to use swag, as you had a lot of pop artists like Lady Gaga, Justin Bieber, and many more using this style to create a new trend. One more note that I have to add, it wasn't just music, it was also movie stars, childhood stars. It was basically everybody because the industry had shifted. The popularization of oversized colorful tees, skinny jeans, snapbacks, and chunky high top footwear could be seen in everyday fashion of the 2010s, making swag and what we think swag to be an overnight success. Swag would create such a cultural shift that it would change every bit of fashion. It can still be seen in today's culture with oversized jackets, pants, and shoes. I mean, just take a look at Kanye West and his brand. There was not a person who didn't have some type of swag in the 2010s. Even my emo self from around this time had some type of swag apparel. And I mean, it was literally just a fashion of the time, similar to what you see in 2005, or similar to what you find whenever you talk to older generations about the 1980s and the fashion trends of that time period. As swag would reach mainstream success, its downfall would soon follow around 2015. Again, swag could be seen to be stuck in a specific era. Just like what was in the 1980s, swag was the 2010s. When you think of swag, you think of 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, and 2014. Smartphones were on the rise and Facebook was barely an app that you could download. But as 2016 came around the corner and the hit single Bad and Bougie would drop, the rise of Supreme and Gucci in hip hop in 2016 made swag less favorable amongst consumers. Fashion would shift once again overnight, leaving swag to just be another trend. Swag was an era that most adults who are now in their 30s remember all too well because it was just everywhere. Some found it annoying, others found it to be interesting, like myself. It was definitely a defining cultural shift that every industry used, and honestly, I miss this era of fashion, mainly because it was just unique. You had every artist using this trend, and not just music, it was every celebrity, from Rob Dyrdek to Chanel West Coast. It was everywhere. And you could say that the shift in skateboarding had influenced this fashion trend, as skateboarding was on the rise in the 2000s, no thanks to the Tony Hawk video games, but just how unique skateboarding was. While swag can still be seen in today's culture, it has pretty much faded, and I really do hope swag comes back in some form.